Today we're going to talk about writing the equation of a line. So the first thing let's do is remember how do we write the equation of a line. And it's written in the form y equals mx plus b. Now remember the two things we need to know in order to get this equation is m, which is the slope, and b, which is the y-intercept. Remember that's where the line crosses the y-axis. So let's go ahead and look at our first example. And our first example is to write the equation of a line with a slope of 3 that crosses the y-axis at -2. The great thing about this question is we're given the slope already. It's 3. And we're also told that the y-intercept is -2. That's where it crosses the y-axis. So we have the point 0, -2 is the y-intercept. Now that we have both of those pieces of information, we can go ahead and write the equation of our line, just plugging in 3 for m and -2 for b. And so we get y equals 3x minus 2. And that would be the equation of the line with that information. Alright, let's move on to the next example. So example 2, write the equation of a line with a slope of 3 that goes through the point -2, 4. Now, looking at this, we know that we have 3, and we also have this point -2, 4. So let's see what that information gives us. The first thing is that 3 is the slope. So we're given the slope, so we know the slope now is 3. The difference between this and the last question is that we don't have the y-intercept. We have the point -2, 4. That's on this line, but it's not the y-intercept. So let's go ahead and use our algebra skills to try to come up with the y-intercept. What we're going to do is start with the equation y equals mx plus b. And let's replace what we know. We know that the slope is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the m with a 3. So we get y equals 3x plus b. Remember, we're trying to find the y-intercept. We're trying to find that b value. So how can we come up with what b is? Well, we can take what we know, -2, 4, and plug those in for x and y. Let's try that. Let's take this point -2, 4. Remember that it's in the form x, comma, y. Let's put 4 in for y and 3 in for x. Let's use our algebra skills now to solve. We get 4 equals -6 plus b. And when I add 6 to both sides, I get a 10 for that b value. Now that I have b and I have the y-intercept and I have the slope, I can write my final equation, which in this case would be y equals, remember it's in the form y equals mx plus b. So we get y equals 3x plus 10. Take a look now at example 3, a similar setup. We want the equation of a line with the slope of -2 that goes through the point 1, -5. So I'm going to have a substitute pause the video right now and give you a couple minutes. And I first want you to try this one and use the example 2 as a model to help you. And then once everyone's given it a try, we can go ahead and play the video again and you can see how to do it. So we'll pause the video right now and I want you to try example 3. Alright, so going through example 3, you should determine that the slope was -2. And then we need to once again calculate the y-intercept. So I'm going to start with my y equals mx plus b, but I'm going to put the -2 in for the slope because that's what I know. And now we'll use that point 1, negative 5 to solve for the y-intercept. So we'll take negative 5 and we'll put it in for y, a 1 in for x, and we'll solve. Negative 5 equals negative 2 plus b, plus 2 to both sides, and we get a negative 3 for b. Now that we have the slope and also the y-intercept, we can go ahead and write that equation. Y equals negative 2x minus 3. And hopefully you got that one correct. Let's pause the video again right now, and what I want you to do is I want you to compare with your neighbor, see if they got that one right, and I want you to go ahead and talk through the process with your neighbors. I want to make sure that everyone understands the steps that we just did. Once everyone's had a chance to talk about these steps with their neighbor and compare answers, then we'll go ahead and play the video and go on to the next example. Alright, example 4. We're going to once again write the equation of a line, but now it's going to go through these 2 points. So we have 2, 7, and negative 3, negative 13. Now with example 4, you'll notice that I don't have the slope or the y-intercept. I have 2 points. So the first thing we're going to need to do is calculate the slope. Now really quickly, let's remember how to find slope. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to bring in a new slide here for a minute. Remember to find slope, we had a formula that we learned, and if I have 2 points, remember to find the slope, I can subtract the y values and subtract the x values, and we'll divide those, and that's how we find slope. So now going back to this example 4, we have these 2 points, and first let's calculate the slope. So we're going to start with the y values, negative 13 and 7, and I'm going to subtract those, negative 13 minus 7. And then we'll take the x values and do the same, negative 3 minus 2. We'll get negative 20 over negative 5. And negative 20 divided by negative 5 is positive 4. Now that I have positive 4, I can go ahead and plug that in to my equation as my slope and find the y-intercept just the way that we did in examples 2 and 3. Now you notice we have 2 points here, 2, 7 and negative 3, 13. So which one do we have to use to plug in to find the b? It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick 2, 7. You could also use negative 3, 13. Either one works. So we'll start with y equals mx plus b, and we'll put that 4 in for the slope. Now we'll take that point 2, 7 and put a 7 in for the y and a 2 in for the x and solve for b. 7 equals 8 plus b, so we'll take away an 8 from both sides, and negative 1 is what b equals. So now we'll go ahead and fill that in to write the equation. Y equals 4x minus 1, and that is our final equation. So you can see this time we had to do a few things. The first thing we had to do was use our slope formula to calculate the slope. The next thing we did was plug that slope in for m, and then we also plugged in the point for x and y, and we solved to get that b value. Once we got that b value, we were able to write our final equation. So what I'd like you to do right now is, once again, I'm going to have the sub pause the video, and I actually want you to try this. Should say example 5, shouldn't it? I want you to try this last example, and we'll pause the video, use the one we just did as a model to help you, And then once everyone's had a chance to try it, we'll go ahead and play the video again and check the answers. Okay, so to go through this one, hopefully you started with finding the slope. So I'm going to start with subtracting those y values, 1 minus 4, and the x values, negative 2 minus 4. 1 minus 4 is negative 3 over negative 6. Now, negative 3 over negative 6 reduces to positive 1/2. And now we'll go on to step 2. Now that we have the slope, we can plug it into y equals mx plus b to calculate the y-intercept. So we're going to get y equals 1/2 x plus b. Let's pick one of those 2 points from above to plug in for x and y. I'm going to use the first point again for 4 since they're both positive numbers. So 4 in for y and for x. 1/2 times 4 is 2. Take away 2 from both sides, and b is 2. So the final equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 2. And hopefully you got those ones right. So the important things to remember for today are obviously is this equation for slope, and also that we're using that y equals mx plus b. What I'd like you to do right now is I want you to go to page, the next page in your packet. I believe that should be page 3, and you should work out those questions, and if you need more space, you can use a separate piece of paper. Page 3 of your packet will be due for tomorrow.